Peace and blessings. Welcome back to the channel once again, where we talk all things health and healing from a holistic perspective. And today will be no different. Today, we're going to talk about the things that are destroying our kidneys, that vital detoxification and cleansing organ. And we're also going to talk about how do we prevent kidney disease. 37 million Americans live with kidney disease. That's 1 in 7 adults in America. Okay. 808,000 people are living with kidney failure. And guess what? 90% of people don't even know it. Let me just re-engineer that for just a second. I'm going to rewind that. 808,000 people are living with kidney failure. And 90% don't even know it. All right. So that means that number is much bigger than what we know. Okay. 90% of people don't even know it. And this is why people drop dead. This is why people are here today. You talked to them yesterday, and then all of a sudden, boom, gone. And how many people have you heard out there who are like, I need a kidney? You know, I think when I think about it, I think about, Fife Dog from A Tribe Called Quest. I think about Scarface, one of the best rappers of all time. And the list goes on and on. But how many people have you heard out there, a family member who is in search of a kidney because one of their kidneys no longer work? 90% of people don't even know it, okay? And they collapse and die. And yesterday you were talking to them, everything was fine, and then boom. And so this is a very important conversation in general, but it's really important for the Black and brown community, especially because we're at the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to this. And let me tell you this, you do not want to be on dialysis. You do not want to put yourself on a list to find a kidney. You do not want to find out what family members aren't willing to, donate a kidney to you. This isn't a process you want to go through. And let me say this before we get into it. It's important you know and understand you need both your kidneys. Despite the fact that you can live with one kidney, it's important to know that there are complications as a result of you having only one kidney, okay? And a lot of people don't realize that until they have to go through it. But your kidneys are designed to filter your body, all right? So we're going to get into that in just a second to help you understand what are those major functions, but before we sort of discover what are the things that are killing our kidneys. But I think it's really important we know and understand that people wait too late. People wait until they got to find a new kidney. And there's so many telltale signs like high blood pressure and all kind of other things that are telling you that there's a problem with your kidney. Pain in the lower half of your back, okay? All these signs that are telling you, it's check engine lights that are telling you something's going on with your kidneys. Dry, itchy skin, okay? Another sign. There's all these different signs that are telling you that something is going on with your kidneys. And here's what's really important for you to understand. Your kidneys aren't just there to filter your blood, but when your kidneys don't function well, it's going to cause so many other type of issues as well too. All right? One of the leading causes of high blood pressure. So a lot of people are trying to fix their blood pressure, but then what they really need to do is fix what's going on with the kidneys, because that's the source. And you know how we do here. Everything we do, we take a holistic approach, which means that we don't address the symptoms, we address the cause, which takes care of the symptoms. Okay? Hugely important. Your high blood pressure could be, and is most likely, because of your kidneys. It could be for a whole gamut of different things. But in many cases, because of the standard American diet, for most people, it's tied to your kidneys. And once I go through these functions to help you understand what the functions and features of the kidneys are and how important they are to our overall health, then you'll understand why it plays such a big role in the number one risk factor for the number one killer of all men, which is high blood pressure, which leads to heart disease, okay? A heart attack, okay? The number one risk factor for a heart attack or a stroke is high blood pressure, okay? So hugely important. So let's get into first these key functions of the kidneys, okay? And then we're going to talk about what's killing our kidneys, what's causing the kidneys to become dysfunctional. And then, as you know, when I give you the problem is the solution. All right. So first, let's start with the functions so you can understand how important the kidneys are and what they do for you on a daily basis without you ever knowing. Okay. First of all, the kidneys are a filter. They're filtering the blood. All right. You got one on the left and one on the right. Okay. The one on the left is filtering your whole entire left side of the body. The one on the right is filtering the other side. Now, if you got one kidney, you got one that's doing the job of both sides. Okay. But on a daily basis, the kidneys are filtering about 200 quarts of blood every 24 hours. 200 quarts of blood. All right. No rest. It's doing that from the moment you're alive to the moment you cease to be alive. Okay. And it's doing that very efficiently as long as you're living a particular type of lifestyle. So one function is the removal of waste and toxins and drugs from the body. Okay. When I say waste, I'm not just talking about all of those food chemicals that you eat in the standard American diet, because 70% of the American diet is processed foods. Okay. When I say processed, I mean anything in a box, bag, can, jar that's not a whole food. 70% of what Americans eat come out of a box, bag, can, jar that has preservatives, thickening agents, emulsifiers. I can go on and on and on. Okay. So 70% of what you're eating has food chemicals in it. Okay. I'm not even talking about that. There are waste products that are created through our normal daily functions. And one of those waste products is creatine, okay? So what you'll notice is when you go into your doctor to do your annual, one of the things they do to look at your kidney function is your serum creatinine level, okay? Which is the creatine, okay? Because your kidneys are filtering out this creatine. Creatine is being created as muscle is being broken down. So as I go to work out, or you go to work out, to build muscle, you got to break muscle down. So it's a build up to break down process when you're working out. All right. And as you're going through your normal daily actions, that is exactly what is happening, whether you're working out or not. And that process creates creatine. Okay. And your kidneys are there to filter it. Now, if too much of it starts to get filtered, your serum creatinine levels goes up. Okay. That's an indication that you have issues with your kidney. Okay. When your kidneys are starting to overfilter. Okay. Also urea. Okay. Better known as uric acid or urine. Okay. All right. So getting acid out of the body is one of the primary functions of the kidneys, to get acid out of the body. And as you know, when the kidneys start to break down, guess what? The acid level or acidosis level goes up in the body. And as you become more acidic, you can go back to 54, when Otto Warburg won the Nobel Prize. He won the Nobel Prize because of one of the things he discovered immediately after winning the prize, was that cancer cannot thrive in an alkaline environment. And our blood is slightly alkaline. Our bodies overall is slightly alkaline. Now, are there places in our body where there's acidosis? Of course, our stomach has acid to break down food. But our blood, the primary river of life, is alkaline. And as we become acidic, we can go into a state known as metabolic acidosis, which is literally fatal for a lot of people. So it's important to know that when you don't have your kidneys properly doing the job that they're supposed to do, then you become acidic. And as you become acidic, guess what? That's a breeding ground for not only cancer, but bacteria, fungus, and viruses to thrive in, okay? So we literally can create the environment inside of our bodies for things that shouldn't be there for invaders to thrive, okay? So that's a huge feature of what the kidneys do. Number 2, balances fluids in the body. Why is that important? Because, I mean, when you think about our bodies, we're roughly made of 80% water. Okay, fluid. So if you're not properly controlling fluid, fluid starts to stick in my face gets puffy. Fluid starts to stick in my lower limbs, all of a sudden I get an elephant trunk foot. Okay? So balancing fluid is very important. That's one of the jobs of the kidneys, is to balance the fluid in the body. Okay? Otherwise you get, edema, swelling in areas of the body if the kidneys aren't properly functioning. This is one of the things that you commonly see with people who are on dialysis, fluid balancing issues. Okay? Another feature or function of the kidneys, they release hormones that regulate your blood pressure. Okay? Literally releases hormones that regulate your blood pressure. So when your kidneys are offline or not functioning the way they should, then guess what? You're going to have blood pressure issues. Okay? When the environment becomes too acidic, when there's too much waste in there, uric acid, creatine, waste, etc., drugs, metabolites from the food chemistry that you're putting in your body, because 70% of what the standard American diet is processed food. Of course, now you're going to have problems with the normal functions of the kidney, which is releasing hormones to balance the fluid, and you got problems balancing the fluid. Okay, what is blood pressure? It's based on fluid within the vessels. Okay, and then you got hormones that are helping to control that fluid and to control your blood pressure. Of course, this is going to lead to you having issues with blood pressure. Okay, hugely important. Another function that is really important is that the kidneys activate vitamin D. Okay, here's why this is important. All right, so we're supposed to get our vitamin D from the sun, but what they leave out of the equation and don't tell you is that when the sun hits your skin, the first thing is you got to have magnesium and other minerals to be able to convert that sunlight into a vitamin D form. Okay. It then has to go to your liver. Okay. And then the liver converts it. Okay. And then it leaves the liver and has to go to the kidney. And then it's finally converted into its active form. So you could be getting enough sunlight, but it's not being activated because you don't have proper liver function and kidney function. This is why I always tell people it's important to do detoxes today. We live in a very intoxicating environment and very toxic environment. Okay, so as a result, this is why I do my detox every 3 to 4 months. I'm always reiterating that is because if you don't have healthy liver and kidney function, you're going to have a multitude of issues. It's not just going to be an issue around the kidney and the liver itself isn't healthy. It's going to cause so many other issues. And particularly with this issue, if you don't have a healthy kidney, or kidneys, then unfortunately you won't be able to convert your vitamin D into this active form. Okay? So this is why you see 80% of Black and brown people have vitamin D deficiency. And when you look at the general population, around 46%. Okay? This is why so many people are struggling with vitamin D. On top of the fact that we live a very sedentary indoor lifestyle where we don't get sun exposure. But the little bit of sun exposure you do get, that vitamin D just goes to waste because it's not being activated because so many people have kidney issues. Like I mentioned before, 37 million Americans have kidney disease. That's 1 in 7 adults. So if there's 10 people in the room, we're headed towards at least 2 of them, almost 2 of them are going to have some form of kidney issues. Okay, 808,000 have kidney failure and 90% of them don't know about it. So of course, when you start to have vitamin D issues and then you start to have high blood pressure issues and then now you're getting swelling in areas, it could all be coming from the fact that you have kidney issues. Okay, another thing that's really important, again, these are signs and symptoms, okay, to tell you that something's going on with your kidneys. Another function of the kidneys is they control the production of red blood cells. Why is that important? because you need red blood cells to make blood. And not only, and what people don't know is every 120 days, you get a whole new blood supply. Okay, that's pending that you have healthy kidney function, a healthy spleen, etc. Okay, what's also important about that is that if you have unhealthy kidneys, you won't be able to produce red blood cells, which means you're gonna probably have anemia. Okay, so you're gonna have issues. You may be eating enough iron in your diet, but you may not be producing enough red blood cells, which is also gonna later on turn into an issue with your hemoglobin as well too. So if you went to your doctor, got a checkup, and he told you had issues with your hemoglobin, issue with your red blood cell count, anemia, etc., it could be stemming from your kidneys. So this is why it's so important to look at the function of the kidneys as well too. All right, and then also, like I mentioned earlier, it balances fluids in the body, but it also removes excess fluid. So a lot of people, when I assess them and they say, well, can you help me with my health? And they said, I ask what's going on, and I kind of do a once over, look over them. What I'll notice is puffiness. And wherever the puffiness is, it tells you a lot. So for a lot of people, I see a lot of puffiness in the face where you can't see their bone structure, their neck puffy. Okay. So whenever somebody looks really puffy, even under the eyes, when you start to see somebody's like really puffy under their eyes, that could be connected with the kidneys as well too. Or you start to see swelling in the lower limbs. Okay. These are things that are telling you that the kidney isn't removing that excess fluid. Okay. If you drink a lot of water and then all of a sudden you feel puffy and bloated, it's because the water isn't going into the cell. Okay. Now, hugely important to know that. So those are the functions. Now, before I get into what kills the kidneys, what I also want to mention about the kidneys is this, because again, I try to give you everything from a holistic picture. You got to look at every aspect of things. You can't look at just the diet. You can't just look at heredity. You can't just look at how much water they drink. You also have to look at the emotional body, the spiritual body as well too. And one of the things that I've learned in spiritual medicine is that all of the organs in the body have an association with certain emotions, and they have association with certain energies in the body as well too. And when it comes to the kidneys, here I want to give you a list of emotions that could be very toxic to the kidneys as well too, and ruin the function of the kidneys. And I think this is a very important conversation, because a lot of times when I go through these list of things that I'll mention after this, and then I go back and I ask them, well, tell me about the person. And they start to tell me about the person, it helps me understand why their kidneys aren't functioning that way. So this is why I'm bringing this up, because this isn't something that you would probably never hear from your doctor, because this isn't something that we're taught when we're in school. Okay. So some of the emotions that are associated with the kidney that could be very toxic to the kidney: fear. Okay. And when you think about the media, when you think about social media, how much fear mongering are you seeing every day? And let me tell you something. Growing up where I grew up, what I learned very quickly was that it wasn't the person who was fearless that you had to have fear of. It was the person who was fearful, who was full of fear, that you had to be afraid of. See, people are under the impression that bullies are just mean and, heartless and fearless. No, they're not. They're full of fear. They always say hurt people hurt people. Okay? And a lot of times the reason why they're hurting you is because of the fear. I mean, you may not know about what's going on, what they've gone through a childhood. So when I see a bully, I see a person who's in fear. When I see a mean person, I see a person in fear. Okay? Those are the people who you have to be afraid of. Okay? because those are the people who are dangerous because of what fear makes you do. And fear is a very toxic emotion, and specifically very toxic to the kidneys. Okay, so that's one emotion that is very much associated with the kidneys. So if you live in fear, you're constantly thinking about, if I do this, this could happen. If you're constantly thinking about somebody could rob you, or you're constantly thinking of watching these scary movies because you like fear, you're attracted to fear. I've noticed that there's an association with people who have high blood pressure and kidney issues. Weak willpower. That's also a characteristic that is associated with, toxicity to the kidneys, insecurities, insecure, being aloof, isolated, anxiety. These are all emotions associated with damaging the kidneys. So it's important for you to address those emotions. Now, if you haven't read my book, Life is My Guru, where I tell you about my life in here and all of the life lessons that I've gone through and how I overcame them. And I'm very transparent in the book. I highly recommend reading this and getting the journal to go along with it, because that's the spiritual work that you're here to do. Okay? A lot of people are under the impression that we're here to have some kids and get a job and get a retirement, travel a few places, and then die. No, there's spiritual work that we have to do, spiritual cleansing that we have to do as well, too. And this is why it's so important that we do this, because spiritual unhealthiness leads to physical unhealthiness. Okay, so I just wanted to jump into that really quickly and help you guys understand how important that is first, okay? Before I dive into these 6 things that could be damaging your kidneys or killing your kidneys, okay? Number 1, if you have diabetes, type 1 or type 2, okay? Type 1 or type 2 diabetes is probably one of the number 1 causes of kidney failure, okay? Diabetes is an assassin, okay? And it picks you off very slowly. This is why with diabetes, it's the number 1 cause of amputation. It's one of the number 1 causes of blindness, okay? And it's also one of the number 1 causes of kidney failure and heart disease, okay? So when you get diabetes, the problem isn't the diabetes, it's what diabetes is doing to you. It's picking you off slowly but surely, okay? So hugely important. If you have diabetes, you got to get off that high carb, added sugar diet. You got to get that out of your diet, okay? Number 2, painkillers and NSAIDs. Okay, what are NSAIDs? Like ibuprofen, okay? Taking a whole bunch of ibuprofen, which people take as if they're vitamins. I've seen people literally take those 3 or 4 times a week. I've seen people who are taking 800 milligram ibuprofen 2 to 3 times a day during their cycle. And what people don't tell you about these drugs, because you can get them over the counter, not the 800s, but you can get them over the counter, is that people don't tell you that these drugs, these painkillers that you can get over the counter, ibuprofen, naproxen, etc., other painkillers as well too, they kill your kidneys. Okay, they damage your kidneys and they damage your gut. But they damage your kidneys and they reduce blood flow to the kidneys as well too. So it's important to know and understand, when you're taking these drugs that you think are harmless because they're either over the counter or they're not, some strong scheduled drug, these drugs are just equally dangerous. There is no drug without a side effect. There is no drug without a side effect, and that holds true for ibuprofen, naproxen, Aleve, all these other NSAIDs that people are very familiar with and pop like there's no tomorrow for a headache, for whatever it may be. All right, so number 3, processed foods, because they're high in sugar, they're high in salt, and they're high in food chemicals. Now, what's important about that is this. The salt and the sugar that is in these processed foods, it's nothing like the salt and the sugar that you find in nature. The salt and the sugar that you find in processed foods is synthetic, and it's like shards of glass inside of the blood vessels. So as they're going to through the kidneys are looking at this like a drug, like a waste product. It's literally like a piece of glass cutting the nephrons and the tubules inside of the kidneys, causing little tears, micro tears inside of there. So the more of it you eat, and people are eating this 3 times a day, 21 times a week, four times four times a month. When you start to add that up, 52 weeks a year, you understand that you're giving yourself small doses of glass, small doses of chemicals, and it's damaging the kidneys. Okay, so it's really important to know and understand that processed food is not food at all. It should be illegal to call processed food food, because it's not food. It is a very it's a knockoff compared to what food is. Okay, it's a knockoff and not the good kind. Number 4, dehydration, especially chronic dehydration. I'm not talking about if you forget to drink some water after you work out every once in a while. But chronic dehydration, 2 to 3 times a week, being dehydrated is a problem. It increases your risk also for kidney stones as well too. Okay, and I'll tell you, for the men out there, the closest thing they say to a woman experiencing pregnancy or the birth or labor, the closest thing we get to that is a kidney stone. Okay, and trust me, we don't have the same type of pain tolerance a woman does. Okay, so protect your kidneys out there. All right, so hydrate. Hydration helps to clear out the salt, the urea, that uric acid that I was talking about, and the waste. All right, when you're dehydrated, it's very difficult for it to be able to do that. All right, in your kidneys. All right. Number 5, eating too much meat. You know what the funny thing is? When you have kidney disease, one of the first things they do is protein restrict you. They restrict the amount of protein that you eat. All right, so that tells you this is probably why eating too much meat is a problem. And the reason why is because meat generates a high amount of acid. Okay, just think about it. Like, it's meat. All right, is it alkaline or is it acidic? Okay, it's acidic. There's no doubt about that. All right, so the more of you eat of it, the more acidotic your body becomes. So it's really important to understand that we live in the society now where now the carnivore diet is becoming cool. And you'll see the doctor who was like the front man for that diet, he since started to add plants back into his diet now. And he'll tell you, if you go look him up, I won't even say his name, you go look him up, he'll tell you he started to have a lot of problems from eating just meat. Okay? And he had to go to eating more plants. You cannot just eat meat. It's too acidic. This is why when lions eat meat, they can. Because even their saliva in their mouth is acidic. It's not alkaline like ours. And they have like 5 times the amount of acid in their stomach than we do. Okay? Most people don't even have enough acid. Most people have issues with low stomach acid. So just really important. All right. And then the last thing is drinking alcohol. Drinking alcohol also damages your kidney too. I won't go into like how that happens, but essentially, alcohol is a toxin. And to be honest with you, despite what we've been told about a drink a day is good for the heart, there is no safe amount of alcohol. That's just the truth. Okay. And so I hope this has been helpful. If you have not hit that subscribe button yet, please do. What I'm noticing is when I look at the analytics, a large majority of my audience has not hit the subscribe button yet. If you want to keep this movement going, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification button up there so that you'll be notified whenever these videos come out. Share this with people, because we got people in our families, people, our co-workers, our wives, our husbands, our brothers, our sisters who are suffering, and they're suffering from a lack of knowledge. This isn't what's being taught in school. It's not what's being taught in healthcare. Is not being taught to us. So it's so important for us to get on this side, which is the preventative medicine side. See, this is prevention. And I always tell people, like I do in my book, Education Over Medication, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cures. If you prevent, there's no need to cure, because you never get the dis-ease in the first place. All right, so again, share this with as many people as possible so that we can get this message out there, so that our people will be educated and have a more holistic picture when it comes to their health. Until the next time, peace and blessings and Godspeed.